Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest Blockchain Blueprint interview. Joining me today, we have Xenia and Masha from Value Tokenized, aka the CryptoTwins. Thank you for joining me today on what was the amount of takes we've had, the amount of Zoom hitches we've had, and where anything can go wrong, anything can go wrong.
But we're here.
Pleasure to be here.
We made it. We made it. That's the important thing. Yeah. So, right off the bat, can you tell me a bit about yourselves, please?
Sure. So we have a background in journalism, in PR, and in marketing. And we jumped to the crypto scene pretty early in 2017 in the ICO days. I think all of us had this page like in our scenarios, but we're pretty quickly evolved to working with startups, helping them achieve their communication goals. And one of the companies that we worked with was a token issuance platform, a security token issuance platform. And for them, for about a year, we started to dive pretty deep into the tokenization scene and to understand what's going on there, how we can contribute. And we created a small community that's called Security Token Club. We have a newsletter, and like gradually it evolved into creating a blog.
Brilliant. Okay,
and so
Xenia?
we really saw the demand for expert content in the space, like security token offerings and tokenization, that was so new and fresh. It was really important for all industry participants. It was really important, like a step for adoption, to be able to provide the experts' comments and the expert outlook on what was actually going on in the space. And this was one of the inspiration, something that inspired us to create Value Tokenized, which is a blog about digital securities and the future of finance. In the course of a little over a year and a half, we interviewed over 100 industry experts and thought leaders in the space. And we, to this day, we're still doing these videos, and every Monday we're sending out a newsletter about the most relevant news in the space of digital securities.
Great. So I would say it's not too dissimilar to what we do at Blockchain Blueprints in the sense of just interviewing people within the space. So
we started pretty narrow. So our focus initially was digital securities, tokenization. So we're pretty narrow focused, but now, and like it's a bit of a spoiler, but right now we're going to be shifting the focus a bit to more of like a notion of stores of value, of investment in digital assets per se. So taking a look of more financial standpoint. So that's something we'll be focusing more right now, because we can talk about it later, but in general, digital security is a pretty narrow topic, and we see that there is space for us to kind of evolve and share more.
Good stuff. So what would you say that Value Tokenized offers within this space that nobody else doesn't? What's your unique selling point, as it were?
I think that there was no, at least at the time where we started, there was no blog, no media like that dedicated specifically to the topic of tokenized assets and digital securities. So I think we were one of the, this is a really narrow topic, narrow field, and as somebody who specialized specifically in this space, I think we were one of the first people, and it's wonderful to see more media dedicated to this topic, more blogs, more video blogs appearing in the space right now. But I hope that we were able to contribute to the development of this area and maybe even inspire some people to dive into exploring this area, this sort of interest more.
Yeah, because now you see Forbes, you see Bloomberg, Yahoo Finance writing news about tokenization. And when we just started to work on it, like in early 2018, it was not even the thing. So it was super early days. So yeah, I think we're pretty happy to have contributed to spreading the word.
Brilliant. Next question. I don't think I can avoid this too much longer, but 2020, what the hell is going on? You know.
It's hard to say. Actually, we've been stuck. I'm in Moscow and Xenia is in Canada, Vancouver. So we haven't seen each other for almost 6 months now, which is the longest we haven't seen each other. And in terms of the
Wow.
industry, and yes, so that's pretty significant for us. And of course, for the industry that we're seeing, I think it's like in terms of crypto, it's actually very interesting times, because now more than ever, the world is looking at towards, digitization, and everybody wants digital services, everything fully online, fully digital. And with all the countries looking at, CBDCs, I think now is a very interesting time for crypto, because, as we will see, inflation and crisis, which many experts predict that will come, probably a lot of attention will be drawn to crypto. And we've seen it with, I think, BTC for now. It's being pretty stable and growing.
I think we also, like, this year showed us some interesting potential use cases for digital currencies. For example, the stimulus payouts. It's one of the hardest things is actually getting it out to the people because of like various factors. And we really see like both the general audience and like institutions and governments potentially started to consider this as one of the main methods how it can work efficiently in future in case of the same like catastrophic events or for some more regular life circumstances. So yeah, I think it's like this is a really interesting time where we see how something might work in action. And I think this will inspire the faster adoption for digital assets in general.
Staying on the subject and speaking of digital assets in 2020, amidst all the chaos in the world and the crisis, of course, which is very obvious to all of us, where do you think this will go to, like, in terms of not just pricing necessarily, but also mass adoption?
I think there are probably like 4 main directions where we will see mass adoption and direction. First is certainly, as I mentioned, Bitcoin, BTC, because now we see a lot of institutional investors starting to add it to their portfolios. A lot of, like JP Morgan and all the guys commenting on Bitcoin and starting to onboard crypto clients, which is certainly a sign for adoption. And I think it's probably is linked to the situation in general. Then I think stable coins have a great use case, exactly as Xenia mentioned, for like the ability to make instant payouts, the speed of transaction that it can offer, and it might come in the like in the role of CBDCs, so centralized currencies issued by governments. But I think there's also a lot of space for other stable coins, including decentralized stable coins and projects like FF1 token by 2 Prime. So I think there is a great potential here. And I think in terms of DeFi and in terms of, all the chaos that is happening, I think people, like a certain amount of people at least, are looking for a way to have their assets not controlled, which is also can spike the interest in digital assets and decentralized finance.
Speaking of, because I'm glad you mentioned stablecoins, because it brings me to the subject of like digital currencies for national sovereignty. My last interview was with someone with the oldest national currency in the world, with Scotcoin. So I'm wondering, with something like a digital dollar or a digital yuan, which they are speeding up towards, and they're poised to, go make it official. Where does this leave things like Tether, for instance?
We hear really controversial opinions about Tether because there are Bitcoin, like topics on Bitcoin talk and other forums, like is Tether a scam? Or like on the other hand, is it still like the most widely used stable coin? And this is pretty much the new way of banking, how people trading on crypto exchanges use it to Tether. There is even a new verb for that. So I believe that we won't see it replaced in the course of the next years because still invention and implementation of a new national currency, it will take longer than that, I believe, because it's not so easy. So I believe it won't disappear. Like Tether is not going anyway. It might be like shifted because there are other players, there are other maybe better stable coins with better mechanisms, better backing mechanisms that provide more security. So it might be actually challenged by other tokens. But if we take a look at this in like 10-year perspective, then yes, once there is a strong national currency, there will be no place for USDT. But this is not the case right now or during the next few years.
I don't think that, stable coins created by other companies and independent companies and maybe by fully decentralized companies, that they will disappear with the emergence of central bank digital currencies, just because there is always, a way and like an alternative to, like traditional banking services, basically. And some other players, I think, of course, it will be regulated and everybody will have to play by the rules, but I think there's always room for competition in things like finance, in assets. I think the question is who provides a better offer.
Absolutely. Moving along just ever so slightly, what are your thoughts on blockchain mass adoption? Because in the last few years, we've seen pretty much every corporation want to take an interest in it, in one way or another, whether that's through verification, security, making a record of something, you name it. So I want to know what your opinion was on them adopting it, and whether smaller companies, or do you think it could be used as something as widespread as something like email was, because people didn't know what it was in 1995, for example?
I think as long as we don't have a unified standard, we can't talk on the mass adoption on the institutional level, because when everyone has their own blockchain, and Ethereum so far seems to be the favorite among the bigger players like Microsoft, for example, big IT companies. But private banks and private banks, both public and private, they seem to be preferring private blockchains. And it's interesting to see the experiments, because they will be able to see the advantages that this technology brings. But unless there is a system everyone agrees on, it's hard to talk about the adoption on the worldwide level. So I guess there will be steps towards that direction, but still it will take time. But something as efficient, it's not going anywhere. It's not that they just tried and invested in this and then decided not to go forward, but there will be more efforts in the space, in the area of trying to create a unified standard.
I think I will also comment on that a bit a different way, that blockchain has certainly proven itself to be very efficient in terms of tracking shipment logistics, than in terms of being an underlying layer for financial markets, like all the big banks doing bond settlement on blockchain and creating different mechanisms for their own customers, everywhere pretty much, in China, in France, in Germany. So I think it's certainly very strong use cases for blockchain. But what Xenia said is basically that now everybody's creating their own inner system, and it just acts as technological layer. And probably, maybe, we will see the adoption, and then we'll say that, okay, blockchain is now adopted, everybody uses it. The time when everybody will stop talking about blockchain, because nobody, you hear that a lot, but pretty much nobody talks about the protocols behind internet. So maybe this is our next goal. And so also talking about tokenized securities, which is still one of our favorite topics, I think it will become like a unified technology for the financial transactions, when everybody will have the same system or like interoperable protocols, when all financial markets will be shifted to blockchain, which I think in the distant future might happen, because it has some amazing benefits, but we'll see.
Okay. You mentioned that your specialist or things you like to talk about are the security of token. It's like, do you want to kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah.
So security tokens.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I can just jump into it and say that security tokens is a concept that appears. It can represent ownership. It can represent equity or debt. So basically, it's a security, but on blockchain. And this concept appeared because of the potential benefits that blockchain technology can provide for the capital market space. And it can be everything, like starting from transparency to easier, like it's a better like store of value, as many experts claim. And basically, when companies can raise funds by issuing their securities on blockchain, it saves them a lot of money, and the cost of transaction, like the distribution of it, like becomes significantly easier, and cap table management becomes a lot more efficient. So like really briefly, that's what security tokens are about.
Yeah, and also it pretty much eliminates the possibility of human mistakes, because we've seen stories of public companies, when there was time to, I don't remember exactly the name of the company, but when it was time to claim dividends, like thousands more investors actually claimed them than they had in the registry. So it just eliminates the possibility of human mistake. But probably my favorite thing about tokenization of securities is the ability to potentially democratize the financial markets, because right now you can only buy like a full stock, you cannot buy like little pieces of it, and there is a huge still threshold for the entry because of that. So right now, a lot of private companies that are doing public offering are already doing tokenization. They're already tokenizing their securities, stocks, and bonds, just because it's much easier to transfer. Transactions are cheaper, it's smooth, it's great, it's very easy to track. But still, like I probably, this is why STOs and security tokens as the thing did not, like grow and jump in value and didn't become a whole like new giant market, just because the regulations in the secondary market, because of that, are not in place yet. So there is technology, but on the level, like on the legal level and practical level, it cannot yet be implemented. So potentially it could be the technology that would provide smaller investors with opportunity to enter and to buy stocks of any company, of startups, not just, crowd fund, but actually get equity.
Mm-hmm.
But we do not see it yet.
Are there any security tokens you're particularly into, say, whether that's ZCash or Monero, for example?
Monero and ZCash, there is like their feature, they are about privacy and anonymous transactions, so it's a completely different space. When we talk about securities of particular companies, the most like important and exciting offerings, sometimes they're not even like released, there is no information out there in the public. And some of the websites that track security token activity and list the tokens, like STO Check, for example, they are really important that they provide the information about the state of the market, but there's much more to the market, because this mechanism, it is used by companies to actually sell, like to raise capital from private investors, but they are not allowed. This information can't go to the public because it's a violation of securities laws, for example. So it's hard to tell. Yeah.
Oh, I think today Securitize announced the payout of the first dividends for investors in lottery.com,
yeah.
which was one of the very first STOs that was held, and it was a successful one. I don't remember the sum exactly, but I think it was several millions or maybe even dozens of millions. So we're seeing this project actually proving to be successful, but it's not that wide adopted as a fundraising method yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to finish up, because we don't have much time left, is there anything else that you would like to add that I might not have asked you?
I believe that this year we will see interesting innovation, because the technology has already showed the potential, like the innovation is already there. But once it's met with necessary regulations, and regulations are coming in place, as of this year, we see a lot of like regulatory action. We see clarification and definition of what actually, for example, like virtual asset service providers, what exactly is this and how does this work? Once these two major areas, the tech and the regulation, are synchronized, that's where we will see a major boost for adoption of this technology and for digital assets. So I'm excited to explore this space more. And in some of our future work with Value Tokenized, as Masha mentioned, we will be updating our focus a little bit. It will be really interesting to see, like, to follow what's happening in this space.
Fantastic. So to wrap up, once again, thank you so much for joining me. And if people want to get in touch with you or reach out on social media, how can they do it?
Yeah, we're very welcome for conversations. So we're always available at masha@value.to or at Xenia@value.to or on LinkedIn. So we're very open for the dialogue. And just thank you so much for inviting us. We really appreciate the educational work that you're doing, and we know how important this is for this space. So thank you for having us.
Pleasure's all ours. And don't forget that I will also put everything they described in the description below. And don't forget also to like and subscribe to their channels, as well as ours, which we will also put in the description below. Once again, Xenia and Masha, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.